Hey, good day. This is Mr. Benning, and I want to go ahead and talk about grouping symbols today in lesson 1 2, and we're in grouping. So, in this one, we're going to simplify expressions with and without grouping symbols. The two success criteria: one, you can use grouping symbols to simplify, and you can simplify an expression that has no grouping symbols. So let's kind of look at what PEMDAS is. This is called the one method used to solve expressions. Says all expressions can be simplified using the PEMDAS method. And this is pretty common. You got P is parentheses. E is exponents. M and D, which is multiplication. Or division. ANS is addition. And subtraction. So you got all of this going on right here. So the PEMDAS method gives an order in which expressions are to be simplified. So when we talk about parentheses, we're talking about grouping symbols. So a grouping symbol is a device such as a pair of parentheses used to enclose an expression that should be simplified first. So sometimes our grouping symbols are what is called explicit. Okay, so we have explicit grouping symbols. Okay, explicit meaning it's out in the open. And so like the following here, look at A and B. Notice that we actually see the grouping symbols, and it tells us what we need to simplify first. So let's look at the first one here. What do we simplify first? What's inside the parentheses? What's 5 minus 3? So I do 5 minus 3, so I bring the 6 down, do 5 minus 3 and get 2, do 6 times 2 is 12. In the second one, the grouping symbols are just around the 5, so that just means 6 times 5. So we end up with 6 times 5, which is 30. I bring down the minus 3. 30 minus 3 ends up being 27. So notice that depending on how my grouping symbols are together, can actually change the value of our problem. And another thing that we want to look at is that sometimes these grouping symbols are implicit. Okay, the word implicit just means implied. So the word implicit means implied. And so let's look at it here. Notice that I have this fraction bar. Anytime I see a fraction bar, the grouping symbols are there, but we need to do what's above the grouping, do above and then below. So you can rewrite something like this as 3 plus 7 divided by 9 minus 4, and we can rewrite it this way. Now you notice how I have the grouping symbols that are there now that were implied with the two fractions. So let's go ahead and work this out. So we go to 3 plus 7. We know that's 10. I'll go ahead and keep my fraction bar. Do 9 minus 4, which is 5. 10 divided by 5. We can use a calculator or however, but that leaves me with 2. Pause for a second. go ahead and work part B. Okay, glad you're back. So let's go ahead and work this one. Again, we work the top. The top one is 3 times 8. Well, 3 times 8 is 24, and we want to divide that by 6 times 2, or 12. 24 divided by 12, if we do in our calculator, we count by 12s, is also 2. So sometimes we can have two different expressions to get to the same number, but just remember that all these expressions have to be simplified in a certain order. So when I see that implicit one from the fraction bar, always do the top one first, then the bottom one. So here we want to work from the inside out. So if I have more than one, notice I've got 1, 2, because the top one has them here, 3, and 4 in the bottom. So this one has 4, if we look at it, has 4 symbols. So I want to work this one together because this one's a little bit more difficult. So the first one we work out is the inside one. So we want to work out this one and this one first. So I start to rewrite as much as I can because I'm not using a whole lot of this. So I've got 2 parentheses 2 minus 4. Well, that's negative 2. And then I keep the minus 6 divided by 5 plus 3 times 2 minus 5, which is negative 3. Lots of negatives in here. A little different. So 2 times negative 2. Remember, if we multiply two numbers and one of them's negative, the whole thing becomes negative. So 2 times negative 2 is negative 4 minus 6 divided by 5 plus 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. So we got 5. I'm going to put let's try this again. Let me erase the whole line. So it ends up being, we said negative 4 minus 6 on top, 5 minus 9 on bottom. So now we simplify the top. And I'm going to go this way to give me some more room. So it ends up negative 4 minus 6. If we're subtracting from a negative, the number gets bigger. So if we got a minus, minus a minus, got a minus, minus a number, we're going to add the two numbers together. So negative 4 minus 6 is negative 10. 5 minus 9, notice that 5 is positive, the 9 is negative. So we're adding two numbers, have opposite signs, we subtract them. So which one's bigger? 9 is bigger, so it's going to be a negative. 5 minus 9, or 5 from 9, is 4. So now we're going to divide a negative into a negative. Well, negative divided by a negative is a positive. So we're going to divide both sides, top and bottom, by 2, because we're going to make this positive, because we know we got negative, negative, make them both positive. Now we want to look at what number goes into 10 and 4. Well, 10 and 4 goes, okay, 2 goes into 10, 2 goes into 4. Well, that's it. That's the only one that goes into both of them. So we're going to look at dividing into both of those. So that becomes 10 divided by 2 is 5, and that becomes 2. So I'm going to leave it as this improper fraction, but I could also write it as 2.5 if I divided it out. And that can be okay. So it's whenever you have, have operations that are on the same level, such as multiple multiplications or multiple subtractions, then you need to work those from left to right. So we go from left to right. So let's go ahead and start here. We start with the multiplications here. I got 1, 2, 3 multiplications. So we're going to go from left to right. So we start with 3 times 4. That's 12 plus 5 times 8. That's 40 minus 6 times 4 is 24. We add, now we're going to add left to right because we got adding and subtracting in this one. Adding and subtracting are on the same level, so they need to go from left to right. So we'll go 12 plus 40, which is 62. Then we want to subtract 24. 62 minus 24, we'll write this out here. Borrow 1, make that a 5. 12 minus 4 is 8. The answer is 38. And so now we want to do a final one. We want to evaluate this expression when x is 3 and y is 5. So we're just going to do I want you to practice this one using what we learned at the top and come back in just a minute. All right, just to quickly go through this. This one we're going to have, when we plug the 3 in for x, the 5 in for y, I've got 4 times 3 plus 5 times 5 divided by 3 times 3 minus 5. So now we just work the expression. So we start at the top. 4 times 3 is 12. 5 times 5 is 25. Divided by 3 times 3, which is 9, minus 5. We add the top. 12 and 25 is 37. Divided by 9 minus 5, which is 4. I'm going to leave it like this if it's an improper fraction because there's no number that'll both divide into 37 and 4 to reduce the fraction. But you might also see this written as 9 1/4. I hope this helps. I will talk to you after a while. Have a good day.